Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. Coming up, we find out how a life-changing experience led to first aid sessions in a Grimsby school. We have our weekly reflections, and tonight's guest is Sarah Hunter-Carson, a local author who has been shortlisted for a national award. Welcome to Estuary News. I'm Hugh Richards. Time now for the news headlines.
Officers are appealing for young women to be on their guard following reports of a man in a black car attempting to grab a 13-year-old Scunthorpe girl. The incident happened between 5:30 and 5:45 on Friday as the girl walked along Holmfirth Road close to Dewsbury Avenue. As she walked past what she assumed to be an empty saloon car, the driver's door opened and a man attempted to grab her. She managed to get away and was unharmed as a result of the incident. Elsewhere, the Flood Advisory Service has been giving out free advice in Beverley on ways in which people in the East Riding can protect their properties in the event of flooding. MP for Beverley and Holderness Graham Stewart says although the region has been lucky enough to escape flooding recently, the floods in 2007 emphasise the need to be prepared.
We've been fortunate that in the recent flooding that in this part of East Yorkshire we haven't been subject to it, but of course in 2007 the area was devastated, the whole East Riding and Hull and the whole of my constituency. So it's really important that we make sure that the service is available to local people. They can learn what they can do to protect their property, find out more about it, understand the risks that are there.
North Lincolnshire Council is encouraging people to consider running their own stall within one of the borough's iconic markets, including the one at Scunthorpe Market, which is open Friday and Saturday. A pitch here will set you back £30 a week, and Councillor John Briggs says the markets are an important part of community life.
We've got some fantastic markets within North Lincolnshire, certainly here at Scunthorpe and at Ashby and also at Brigg and our other market towns, and realistically I think they provide a focal point to a method of shopping that used to be traditional, but actually it's here and it's going from strength to strength. And I think in terms of opportunities there are for people, particularly those that you know might just be setting up in business, thinking about it, the invitation is there. Come and join us. It's a fantastic opportunity for you to really explore a different way of working, maybe.
Police have arrested two men on suspicion of robbery on Sunday following an incident at a bookmaker's on Anlibor Road in Hull. Police were called at around 6:15 reporting an armed robbery at the store after two men allegedly entered, threatened the staff before stealing money. The men, both 33 years old, remain in police custody, and that's the latest from the news.
Last October, as the school day at the Ormiston Maritime Academy in Grimsby was coming to a close, a student rushed into the school after his father had had a heart attack. Luckily, two members of staff had first aid training and were able to save the man's life. Now the school has partnered with St John's Ambulance to deliver a day of first aid training for Year 8 pupils. Dave Nunn went to find out more.
It's a skill that can save someone's life. Today, students at Ormiston Maritime Academy in Grimsby have been learning life-saving first aid.
Okay, so the purpose of the day is about looking at disasters and looking at the kind of past disasters, looking at the disasters that might happen in the local community. And today is all about giving the students that rounded kind of education about what they can do to help, what they can do to kind of help in an incident where they might require first aid.
But it's a lesson too of the staff at the academy of what thankful they had. Mark Hallam and Vicky Harrison had to put their first aid to use in the school car park in October, saving a man's life after he had a heart attack in the car.
One of the students came running in saying that his father has had a heart attack. I rushed out, found him in the car, got some assistance, actually got him out of the car, at which time Vicky joined us as well. Yeah. We started CPR, compressions, straight away, because it's obvious that he had had a heart attack. He wasn't, no pulse or anything going there. And really, between the two of us, it was a case of keeping those compressions going.
For the staff at the school, the incident in the car park re-emphasised the usefulness that teaching first aid to the kids can have, and the schools say more schools should follow their lead.
So the purpose of today is to give the students of the Academy a wide range of information, as well as new skills, new knowledge that they can actually take out. So there's about 160 Year 8 students taking part in this today. That is for our academy, that's us giving 160 students some basic first aid skills to help in the community, to support the community. So it's a really good day for the kids, it's a really good chance for them to get those first aid skills as well, because not many students, not many schools do this kind of thing. So I think it's something that we are really proud of.
Luckily for the man who had the heart attack, the story has a happy ending.
He was in hospital till nearly come out Christmas Eve. It happened on October the 22nd. He's got a pacemaker fitted, but apart from that, he's perfectly fine. He's got 5 little kids who was really chuffed to have him home, so he did have something to fight for.
And if you have any news or sports stories for us, or you'd like to appear on our news sofa, you can get in touch with us by emailing news@estuary.tv or by calling us on 01472 3155553. My guest tonight has written a book called All Her Bones Were Silver, which has received recognition after being nominated for the Luke Bitmead Bursary National Award for New and Unpublished Work. Joining me now is Sarah Hunter-Carson. Sarah, thank you very much for coming in.
It's a pleasure.
Now, this book looks absolutely beautifully produced.
Thank you.
And it's a substantial tome.
Yes.
It's a legal thriller, a legal romance.
Yes, it's not a book that's easy to categorise. Essentially, it grew out of my experiences working at the Crown Court here in Grimsby. I was a legal representative, which meant effectively that I was doing a lot of work with, well, basically handling some quite serious trials, some quite serious offences. I was noting trials, interacting a lot with clients, obviously also with barristers. And it occurred to me that it was an interesting world, because in a sense it was a microcosm of society. You had the barristers and the world of the lawyers, the judges, meeting the world of offenders, addicts and so on. And for the purposes of handling, of conducting an effective defence, the barrister has to form quite a rapid rapport with the client. And it occurred to me that it would be interesting to examine how that might work if a relationship developed that was perhaps more lasting, and what, in a sense, my protagonist might learn from that.
I just must mention your protagonist's name because it's absolutely fantastic. Mervyn Walkinshaw.
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
That's absolutely wonderful. Yes. If I were an author of novels, then all my characters would have very short names, so I could just type them as quickly as possible. But anyway, that's wonderful. Sorry, to get back to this point about the mixture of characters that you do get in the legal system, and in the criminal legal system especially, there is that strange paradox, isn't there? You have these terribly clever chaps wearing Savile Row suits who are used to drinking port after breakfast from the Middle Temple and Gray's Inn, turning up with degrees coming out of their ears and a sort of 18th century attitude to justice and jurisprudence.
Yes.
Being instructed by people who, and I make a generalisation about criminals here, but being instructed by people who can't necessarily read and write.
Yes, and I have some interesting anecdotes about that, but it's not the time and place for those.
Righto,
but
okay.
I think as well, it's interesting because there are obviously different types of intelligence, and I try to bring that out in the book. That, I mean, my protagonist, I won't call him a hero, embarks on a kind of awakening, and he begins to realise that there are gaps in his own understanding, and perhaps that he can learn from people who are not exactly that he would have looked down upon, but who he would have thought were people that he wouldn't have ever been able perhaps to be brought to an awakening by. And he sees that he can, and he begins to, I won't say more than that it's a journey for him.
You and I both have some experience of the legal system. I know that there were days when I was certainly glad that I'd enjoyed the company of the criminals far more than I'd enjoyed the company of the lawyers.
Absolutely. I can very much relate to that.
That does tend to happen, doesn't it? Now, your man's epiphany, as it were, or his discovery of a slightly deeper and less shallow attitude to things, comes through, there's a romance.
Yes, there's a romance. He falls in love. But he falls in love as his own personal life is disintegrating. And he finds himself forced to make choices, and he finds himself, in a sense, I would say, in a trap. And he's forced to think about what's real, what isn't real, and how much of what he's taken for granted in his life might be an illusion.
Just to clarify for any lawyers who might be watching, the Bar Council does frown on people falling in love with their clients, doesn't it?
You can fall in love with who you like, but
Not
you
during
shouldn't have a
proceedings.
relationship, no, although it's not quite like being a doctor.
No.
And certainly I have known of people who've gone on to have relationships of a sort with lay clients. But yes, I don't think it's really the done
Just to
thing.
emphasise that the lay client there is if you're a barrister, your client is the solicitor, and then the lay client is
Is the person
solicitor's
instructing
client.
the solicitor.
It's a very
exactly.
complicated thing where you're a kind of subcontractor, aren't you? as a
Exactly,
barrister?
exactly.
A very odd system. We'll maybe talk about the weirdness of the legal system. Anyway, how long did it take you to write this?
About a year and a half on and off. Writing is one of those things that you can't make yourself do. It's not like I will do an hour today, because the inspiration is there or it isn't.
Oh, I know writers who disagree with you on that.
No, not for me. If I made myself write, say, I will do an hour today, definitely, then the next day I might not like it.
Right.
So for me, I might write 3 hours in one day, leave it for 3 weeks, come back to it. You have to be moved by the spirit, the inspiration.
Oh, Sarah, that's very dangerous. And I started writing a novel 30 years ago, but I haven't had inspiration for 29 years, and I've got 3 paragraphs ready. But
Well, that's not really beginning a novel.
all right, Sarah, we'll talk about more about that after the break.
Yes, lovely.
Stay with us, as coming up after the break, Erica Barker will be bringing you all the regional headlines, and we will have the news and sport. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. A little later we'll have our weekly reflections, and Erica will be here with a roundup of the local headlines. But at the moment, my guest Sarah Hunter-Carson is still talking to me about her award-nominated book, All Her Bones Were Silver. Odd title, Sarah. If you can explain that without giving away the plot, what's that all about?
It is from quite an important scene in the book, and it is a scene that I can't discuss without giving away the plot.
I see.
But it is a phrase that's lifted from my own prose. It just resonated with me.
Okay, it's rather poetic.
Yes, I felt it just said something of what I wanted to say about the story, you know, in a sense it's something, it is a kind of a poetic evocation of some of the themes in the book, I think.
Well, it's certainly mysterious and intriguing.
Yes, I hope so.
You want to get into it. Tell me about this prize, this award that you've been nominated for.
Yes, I entered that. It's basically it's for new and unpublished writers, and I was shortlisted. And it apparently, I don't know how many people enter, but it is quite a prestigious national award. And I got down to the last 8. So I was quite pleased with that.
Well, congratulations.
For a
yes.
first effort.
And talking of first efforts, will there be more? Will you continue writing?
Yes, I'm working on another book now, which again has a legal theme, but from quite a different perspective. So it won't be writing the same book twice, which is a pitfall all writers have to avoid. But it will have a legal theme, but some other themes as well.
There's a great tradition of legal literature, of course, isn't
Yes.
there? Some of it's absolutely wonderful. I mean, I was as a child, I was absolutely inspired by Rumpole of the Bailey
Yes,
and things like
read
that.
them all, yeah.
And John Mortimer, but there's also, there's an American stream as well. I think the John Grisham books are pretty lousy, to be honest. But then,
I do
but then
too,
that's maybe just being, I sit there and say, but it's not your turn to speak yet. The prosecution goes first, or something like that.
yeah.
And if you get pedantic about procedure, and the Americans inherited theirs from us, but are you part of that great tradition?
I hope so. Like you, I'm not a big fan of Grisham. I do find his characters quite two-dimensional, and it was in fact because I wanted to try to write something better that I actually began writing All Her Bones, just to see if I could. It was almost just, well, I know this world, I know this environment, what can I do with it? And there's so much natural drama that really it's an extremely rich field for a writer, because the drama's there. You can't the phrase "you can't make it up" really does apply. So you can't take the most sensational things that you've seen or heard and sort of shoehorn them into a book. The book has to grow organically, and the characters have to develop, and they do.
How have your legal friends responded to this at the bar and on the bench?
Enormously positively. I've had they like the fact that it's so believable.
Must get the details out there. It's
Yeah.
available on Amazon. All Her Bones Were Silver
Waterstones as well.
by Sarah Hunter-Carson. Waterstones as well, and you can order it at any bookshop at all, and they'll get it. And it's published by New Generation Publishing.
Yes.
Sarah, thanks so much for coming. Looking forward to reading the next one.
Thank you.
Time now for another weekly reflections. This week from the Reverend Steve Whittington.
You know, there was a workman and he was in the factory, and at the end of the day, he stopped and he went out of the factory doors with a wheelbarrow with a little package in the middle of it. And he was stopped by the security guard. Slightly suspicious, the security guard peered over and said, "What's in that package?" "Just sawdust. At the end of the day, what I love to do is just sweep up the sawdust. It just gets wasted and I like to take it home." Security guard looked at him and said, "Okay, open up that package." Opened up the package. Sawdust. Second day, the same thing happened. On the third day, the security guard, suspicions aroused again, and said, "What is in that package that you're wheeling in on the wheelbarrow?" "It's just the sawdust, I've told you." So the security guard looks again. This happens day after day. On the seventh day, the security guard stops and says, "Look, I know there's something going on, but please let me know. I promise you I won't report you." He said, "What's in that package?" He said, "It's sawdust." He said, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "I'm not." He said, "I'm stealing wheelbarrows." You see, the thing is, often we look at the detail rather than the bigger picture, don't we? And particularly people in leadership, they look at the small, minute detail, but forget to step back and to look. It's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. When you do a jigsaw puzzle, it's very difficult when you're there in the detail, putting things together, to see what picture is forming. So you step back, you look again at the picture, and you see what's going on. And I find in Christianity, sometimes people just look at the small detail, they look at the minute things, and they forget to see the bigger story. And the bigger story is about a God who cares and loves us, who wants to have a friendship with us. But instead what people do is they just focus on the little things, the things they don't really like about God, the things they're not sure about in other people. And I want to encourage people to always look at the bigger picture. Don't look at the sawdust, look at the wheelbarrow, as it were. Whether that's in life as normal, sometimes we just need to step back and see what's happening, particularly when we're going through pain and difficulties. You know, the Bible says that God will work all things together for good for those who love him. And for Christians, that gives them such hope, because even in the difficult circumstances, they step back, see the bigger picture. God's in control, and I might not know what's going on in the detail, but the bigger picture is there's a God who cares and is with me. So whether you're a Christian or not, I just want to encourage you, look at the bigger picture, not just the minute.
And joining me now to discuss what's been happening in the regional headlines, Erica Barker.
Hiya, Hugh. I'm going to start off then with a story that is in the Hull Daily Mail. It says a Humber MP has taken a new advisory role which could see him paid £520 an hour. Now this is Graham Stewart, MP for Beverley and Holderness, Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness. He declared that he will be paid £25,000 for attending 6 board meetings. That's for TES Global, an education company. Then on top of that, he will get the £74,000 a year salary. I think
that's as a member of Parliament.
Yes, as a member of Parliament, and there's a few figures here, but I think this brings up the topic. Labour's Carl Turner, MP for East Hull, has said that his neighbour's second job showed the revolving door which existed between politicians and vested interests.
Really? He used the phrase revolving door?
Yes.
But at the same time, this man is on both sides of the door at the same time. The revolving door analogy doesn't really work, does it? That would suggest that you're doing one alternately to the other. Anyway, nice work if you can get it.
Can bring that up with Mr. Turner.
Yes.
The next story then, it's quite serious. So this is thousands of vulnerable Hull people hit by £3.1 million in a council black hole. This is £3.1 million emerged in the Hull City Council's social care budget. Now this may affect thousands of personal care workers for the elderly and vulnerable people with complex health needs. The things that could be affected is shopping for these people, gardening, household tasks. These could all be scrapped. People would have to find other ways of paying for this, or just do the best they can. And the councillor Helena Spencer, portfolio holder for adult social care services, has confirmed that the department has failed to make the savings that they needed to make. Councillor Spencer says difficult decisions would be made. No one wants to do this, but it's something we have to do. So they say the cuts that have been imposed onto them have left them with no other choice but to cut social care services.
Perennial story for local government short of money, I'm afraid.
This one as well in the Hull Daily Mail. This is the Amy Johnson plane.
Oh yes, we spoke about this last week.
There's a campaign, the Hull City Hull Daily Mail are campaigning as well to get the moth plane back to Hull. It's currently in the capital, in London, and many people don't want it to be there. No. So we've got the MPs, culture and council chiefs are coming together to get the gypsy moth back to Hull.
Amy Johnson was our aviatrix, and her plane should be with us.
And like the Larkin toads as well. I don't know if you saw those around Hull.
Yes.
They're saying about doing those with moths as well for Amy, which is I think is a great
very
idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's all going
that would be decorating Hull very, very quickly.
A couple in Grimsby have won £63,000 on the National Lottery.
Not me. Was it
you? Is it not you?
No.
Well, I don't live in Grimsby and I'm not a couple.
Well, and I haven't got £63,000. If
I'm not in tomorrow, though.
Okay, we'll know what happened. Erica, thank you very much.
Scunthorpe United Football Club have terminated the contracts of manager Mark Robbins and assistant manager Ned Kelly with immediate effect. United chairman Peter Swan said they are sad to part company with Mark and Ned, but that they have to think about the best interests of Scunthorpe United. We are awaiting a further update from the club. It does come after the Iron manager described Saturday's 5-0 defeat at Blackpool as poor and unacceptable. It was great news though for Hull City at the weekend. They faced Charlton Athletic with Abel Hernandez scoring a hat-trick, helping City secure a 6-0 victory. Hernandez became the first Tigers player to score a hat-trick since Matty Fryatt netted 3 in a win against Barnsley in April 2012. The striker now has 15 goals in 25 appearances this season and says he wants to go on and score as many as possible to help the team achieve its aim of promotion. And Grimsby manager Paul Hurst says he wasn't entirely pleased with the performance against Weston-super-Mare, but was pleased to get through to round 3. The Mariners beat the visitors 3-1 in the FA Trophy and will now play Havant and Waterlooville in round 3. In the league, they'll face Bromley away on Tuesday. And Hull FC were victors in their opening pre-season fixture from home against Doncaster. The Black and Whites won with a 46-12 win. And that's all from the sport.
And that's it for tonight. If you have a news story for us, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages or email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472 31 55553. Until tomorrow, good evening.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Rix Petroleum, your local family-owned heating oil supplier this winter.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Cold and cloudy again for Tuesday, mainly dry with a few light showers possible and highs of 4 degrees Celsius. Wednesday staying cold but dry with bright spells.
Rix, servicing the region's oil boilers this winter from a name you can trust. Get in touch at rix.co.uk or call us on 01482 838383.